Hi, everyone. Welcome to another eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests of all areas of ad tech, martech, and media. I'm Nancy Tavares-Santos, Senior Vice President, eMarketer at Insider Intelligence. Today, we have a great presentation. We are going to hear the insights from Feedvisor's new survey of more than 1,000 US brands. This is going to help you walk away with actionable insights for your Amazon advertising and media strategies. This is your opportunity to learn. We want it to be educational. So please, during the presentation, submit questions into the chat window. We'll get to as many as we can during the Q&A, so please keep them coming. Now I want to introduce my special guest. I have Danny Nadel, who's President and COO of Feedvisor. Danny, welcome back.
Thank you, Nancy. It is great to be here.
It's so nice to have you here again. You were here in December. You and I closed down the year together, and here we are opening up another week.
That is true. It feels like it was yesterday, doesn't it?
It sure does. And this is such an important topic. There's so much happening with Amazon. We were talking that, today I saw the news where Amazon Prime might be getting the NFL Black Friday broadcast. Amazon raised its Prime subscription. They have their cashier checkout at MLB, like so much happening, but more important for us, their ad business that generated more annual revenues than the company's whole physical stores. That is so important to retailers. So take it away and tell us why.
Excellent, I shall. Before I dive into our agenda though and answer those questions, I just want to start by making sure our audience knows who is Feedvisor and why are we even here talking about this. Feedvisor is a unique breed. We are a technology company at the core with a team of deep Amazon and e-marketplace experts. And we help brands, whether they're first party or third party brands and retailers, to really outperform their competition and win on Amazon. And we do this by helping them really continuously optimize across all the key facets of their business, optimizing advertising, repricing, content for SEO, inventory, to really help them create a holistic consumer experience journey in a marketplace, which is becoming, as we all know, increasingly complex to navigate with more data than you know what to do with, and now more advertising options than ever before. We are continually keeping a pulse on marketplaces and what's going on in the world of Amazon across categories, across the competitive landscape of our clients. We also supplement a lot of what we do with in-market research and the voice of the customer. And that's really what I'm here to talk to you all about today. As Nancy mentioned, a few weeks ago, we released the results of our 4th annual brand survey. It's for 2022. We fielded it in Q1. It's called Brands Amazon and the Changing Landscape of e-marketplaces. And we've surveyed over 1,000 brands, from direct-to-consumer brands to Fortune 1000 companies. And it really documents their relationships with e-marketplaces and Amazon. So today, we're going to talk a little bit around who are they? What are their key challenges? What are their key areas of focus and how did they overcome those challenges? And hopefully you'll learn some interesting tidbits and things that you'll be able to apply to your own business as a result. So let's start with diving into who they are. So what's interesting is there's certainly a significant scale of retail brands and national or global brands. That's the majority of who was surveyed. But there's a growing contingent of private labels and digitally native brands. That's very important to take away because that's going to become important throughout the results. Most of them have been in business for more than 15 years. But as you'll see, there's about 23% that have been in business for less than 10 years. So that growing emerging brand category is one that we're keeping our eyes on. And for annual sales volume, there's about 65% or more that are 100 million plus in annual revenues. So very, very scale. As we move into Amazon specifically, what we see is that almost half of the brands are actually selling on Amazon today in some way, shape, or form. And 83% of them are advertising. And Nancy, as you said, Amazon's ad business is very reflective of the fact that more and more of these brands are actually investing in becoming visible in these marketplaces. The top categories that are represented, clothing, shoes, and jewelry, #1, electronics, #2, beauty and personal care, #3, followed closely behind by home and kitchen, grocery and gourmet, and health, household, and baby care. And what's consistent across all of them truly is that they all say the best part about selling on Amazon is about sales growth, share growth, and acquiring new customers. So no surprise, but they did have some challenges. 2021 was an interesting year, and I don't think anyone is going to be surprised by what they claim the number one source of concern was, and supply chain. 38% of the brands surveyed noted supply chain logistics as the number one issue. 36% it was meeting customer demand, and shipping and fulfillment at 31%. These all lumped together, these top three, to really be around your supply chain logistics, which also had a trickle-down effect then in acquiring new customers and building and maintaining loyalty, because if you can't sell the products, you're not going to be able to serve your customers' needs. Someone else just might be able to. And that's a theme that we have continued to hear. When it comes to Amazon specifically, the number one challenge, increased competition. And we're hearing this across the board, and it's increased competition as in your category and the digital shelf of our brands that we're talking with, but also in advertising and the effects that it's having, therefore, in the advertising ecosystem. The second most important, very closely behind challenge is marketplace fees. And this is very timely because Amazon just announced that they are adding yet another fee on sellers in the marketplace, another 5% to cover fuel and inflation costs. That's affecting everyone. So it's just becoming more and more complex as a merchant on Amazon to really hit your margins when you have all these costs affecting you and heavy competition. So what are brands doing? Well, they're certainly not sitting idle. They've put in place many, many strategies to help succeed, not just get through, but to succeed in the year behind, but also the year ahead. As we said, the majority of brands are selling on Amazon. It's crucial. It is where customers are going to make purchases. I think we did a consumer survey a few months back that cited that 56% of consumers are coming back weekly, if not daily. And so therefore, you're seeing more and more brands proliferate the platform. But Walmart and Google Shopping and Target are accelerating at rapid paces as well. Amazon is still more, almost twice as large in scale, but we're keeping a watchful eye on what's happening there, as are brands. Brands are also very focused on their own websites, their owned properties. 46% of them are still selling on their own channels, and they're looking to social media and mobile apps as new points to connect with content and commerce throughout the customer journey. So this is what's top of mind for brands right now. And similar to what we said before, asked differently though, marketplaces are very important to them for the same reasons: driving sales, acquiring customers, and building their awareness. The channels that they're going to be investing in and or expanding more deeply into in 2022 include Google Shopping, that was actually top of the list, their own websites, and then Amazon and Walmart pretty similarly. But what's also interesting is 29% of them are happy as is. They're not going to make any changes. They find that their channel mix is right for them, which is important because, adding more channels means adding complexity and responsibility. But it does give you an opportunity to connect with your customers where they are. And many brands have cited this. So what can you do about these challenges? Well, first and foremost, you need to make sure Amazon is part of your retail strategy. It should be the foundation. It's the cornerstone today. It's still the bulk of sales that we're seeing in the marketplace space, certainly half of retail e-commerce today. What we would suggest you do is really look to your investment strategies, understand your performance, understand your competition, and really optimize what you can today, and also try to understand what is high? What does high mean? What is that? What should you be investing to drive the maximum amount of sales you can? Secondly, we think you should look at one or two other marketplaces. And if you're not already doing it, experiment. Understand your goals, understand their audiences, and kind of extend your presence to the footprint that makes the most sense for you. And then once you're there, you must look for ways to stand out. You don't just expect because you're listing your products, all of a sudden people are going to find you. They're not. Today, 65% or more of a search page is now driven by ads. Organic rankings are now way lower on a page. So you really need to figure out ways to pay to play to get yourself that visibility. And lastly, use social and mobile as complements. Brands have mentioned over and over how now these channels are becoming more and more important. we're seeing a success in leveraging other channels to get your message out and have that interoperability across the content channels and influencers back to Amazon, back to marketplaces where you can actually drive the demand. Number 2, focus on supply chain logistics. As we said, it is the #1 issue brands faced. And unfortunately, we don't believe that's going to be changing anytime soon. And as I mentioned before, the problem with lost sales is when there's lost sales, you're losing revenue, but you're also losing customers potentially for the long term because you're opening yourself up to having a competitor come in to serve those needs and have them then experience the competitor. What we did find out in our consumer survey this past year is that 65% of consumers purchased products from brands they hadn't previously tried before 2021. So, it just puts that much more pressure on making sure that our supply chains are in order, especially with Prime Day on the horizon. But operationally sound brands are succeeding and excelling because of this. 64% of the brands we surveyed saw an increase in both sales and revenue, and nearly half of them saw an increase of 11% or more, which is pretty substantial given the year. And they're doing things like leveraging advertising, looking at new ad types and strategies, and making sure they're driving those ads to items that are heavily stocked, well-positioned, and or early holiday deals, or kind of their flagship products. Many more started using Amazon fulfillment this past year because it was one of the best ways they could navigate the supply chain challenges. And also we saw a lot of brands trying different types of promotions and coupons, and free returns was one that we actually saw for many of the third-party merchants. So what can you do? One, most importantly, plan in advance. We know Prime Day is coming. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but it's around the corner. And so what you want to do is make sure that you are putting yourself in a strong position for Prime Day, and then immediately on the heels of Prime Day, back to school and holiday. Look at last year, look at Prime Day, look at Q4, get learnings across your catalog, understand what sold, what didn't, what was effective, what wasn't, and start to integrate that into your plans now. Look at your inventory positions. Add 2 to 3 weeks of buffer in your supply chains, and really try to implement your advertising in a very strategic way. So you're focusing your investments where you have the strongest inventory positions. So those are some things to think about. Experimentation. This is kind of one of the big cries we're hearing across the board. You must keep experimenting and adapting and be agile. And it's very important in the world of advertising. We talked about Amazon. Nancy, you mentioned at the beginning that their business is booming. They are representing 89% now of all retail media. But with that comes competition. And with competition, we're seeing escalating costs. Rising CPCs, rising CPMs. Across our business last year, we did a survey and looked at our data, and we saw that CPCs rose 56% last year. Ad spend rose 49% to keep a pace and to try to outperform. And thankfully for us, ACOS only rose by 20%, so it was more efficient. But we're seeing these increases happening across the board. But if you're smart and strategic, you can see success. Amazon advertising is working for the majority of the brands we spoke with. 74% of them are seeing success, and more than half of them were citing a 7 times plus return on investment for their ads. And what's really interesting is that Amazon's also commanding a higher share of the higher spenders now. Brands that spent over $100,000 a month on advertising grew from 6% 2 years ago to 20% this past year. So this is very indicative of the benefits that people are seeing, and therefore investing further to help drive their goals. The most leveraged ad types continue to be sponsored products. That is truly one of the building blocks of Amazon advertising. And DSP ads are equally as important for brands today. In addition, 44% of brands that use Amazon are using Amazon video ads, and nearly half of the brands we spoke with are planning to use them in the future. The newer ad type that's really coming on the map now is audio ads. We're starting to hear it more. There's more experimentation going on with it, and there's more interest in actually integrating audio ads as part of the channel mix going forward. And lastly, brands are looking to add the DSP and actually some more custom solutions and more retail options from Amazon and marketplaces in 2022. The channels that are generating the highest return on media spend, no surprise, are Amazon and Google, actually equally, and paid socials right behind. Devices with the highest returns, brands are seeing the importance of mobile, and mobile not just in the discovery, which it was a few years back, but now it's about mobile for conversion and transaction. Desktop is still equally important, of course, but mobile is playing a richer and richer role. And the digital ad formats that brands are saying had the highest return for them this past year, video is number one, 45% said video, followed by display. And we have connected TV also becoming a very important component of the channel mix of brands this year. So what does this mean for you? So as I opened up, I think the big thing is experiment, explore. There's a mix of ad formats, there's a mix of ad types, there's a mix of channels. Make sure you're experimenting at every stage of the funnel to get consumers when they're in discovery mode, trying to get inspiration to make a purchase through their research process through to when they're ready to make a transaction. And just make sure as you're doing that, that doesn't become a hodgepodge. We need to make sure you have a consistent brand experience. Make sure your brand voice is a thread that is through every single touch point you have in the marketplaces and outside. Try video and audio. It's going to be very important that you start to experiment and learn how to optimize it for your brand and where it fits best in your mix. Use tools like the Amazon Marketing Cloud, like Amazon Attribution, so that you're getting the deeper learning and insights to truly understand how each of these ads are working for you and how they're working together to build that user pathway to your product. And lastly, leverage technology and expertise. It's too complicated today for someone to try to do it alone. Algorithms, machine learning, this is the core of what we do for the reason that it's just too complex, and it's the reality that it's the combination of technology and humans that are going to be able to help you win in this game. Now let's go to step 4. This is our final area, and it's about holidays and tentpoles, which still reign supreme. When we surveyed the brands, they said they saw the biggest lift in sales last year on Black Friday. They cited a 42% increase year over year. And when you look across the Cyber 5, there was actually a 34% increase in sales year over year. So as much as there was concern around supply chain and concern around holiday, having no inventory left for people to buy, the success was there. And Prime Day was also a very important moment. And last year, if you recall, it moved back to the summer. And actually, the brand cited that 63% of them were actually happy that it was moved back to summer. And they saw year-over-year impact because of it. 47% of the brand saw an increase in sales year over year when Prime Day moved back to summer last year. And what's really important here is I just want to note that all of the brands we spoke with are pretty much advertising throughout the year, but they are heavying up significantly during holiday, but almost even more so during Prime Day. And what's happening on Prime Day is that Amazon has created this moment that others are now also leveraging. Walmart and Target, Best Buy, others have created their own deal days. It's the deals and steals of summer. And so, you really want to make sure you're advertising strategically to drive your prospects to the products in the marketplaces or channels you want them to buy from. So what do we know about Prime Day for this year? Because I keep mentioning it's on the horizon. Well, our guess is it's going to be at some point in the second or third week in July. And that's just because of some of the cues that we're getting from Amazon in the messages they've sent out. It's very important you start planning for this because there's a lot of steps you have to take leading up to it. Your Prime Day deals and your Lightning deal submissions are due this coming week. So make sure that you get those in the US and Canada. Make sure your stock levels are in play. Your stock levels are in order and that you're doing everything you can, whether it's bringing on new suppliers to mitigate risk. You want to make sure that you're getting, if you're a merchant, that you're getting your FBA inventory to Amazon by the end of June. And your Prime Day exclusive discounts deadlines is July 8th. So it's as a result of all that, we believe it's going to be, again, the third week in July. But just make sure you're getting yourself ready. And what else can you be doing to get yourself ready? Well, first, make sure you're analyzing everything you can about your business. Look at last year's Prime Day. Look at how you're trending this year. Look at your catalog. Look at your advertising performance. How are you trending to your forecasts? What are your competitors doing? And how's your share of voice compared to your competition in those terms that matter most to your products? How are your consumers shifting their behaviors? Analyze. Number two, experiment. I said this before, I can't underscore how important this is. Experiment with new formats, with creative approaches, images, messaging, offers, calls to action, and your content. Your content is critically important in educating and converting customers. So make sure you have optimal images of your products. Make sure your A+ content is as compelling and engaging as it can be. And the last piece of this is really to make sure you have a different lens, which is get yourself seasonally ready. We like to work with our clients to help transform their experiences during these Tentpole events and holiday. You want to look at your brand store and how can you make sure you're merchandising the products that you want to showcase most prominently? How can you inject the right keywords into your content to make sure you're going to be capturing trending demand? All of these things are critical components in succeeding during a Tentpole event. And again, I've said this before here, actually with you, Nancy, during holiday even, that Prime Day and holiday, we think of them as three-phased events. There is a period of lead in where you want to start building out campaigns and starting to connect with audiences that are in window shopping mode to start to really get your brand and your products out there. And then you want to go big and bold during the big moments, in this case, Prime Day 48. And then you want to look at the last 2 weeks following as a lead out period where there's a halo that extends from that event. And you have the ability to re-engage with audiences that you connected with during the Tentpole. You have the ability to have promotions that are running post the event. So just make sure you're scaling back, but strategically in those 2 weeks leading out, because there is a halo that absolutely will cover you. And lastly, just don't wait for holidays. Make sure you're consistently advertising and optimizing throughout the year. Make sure your presence is visible and make sure you're investing as wisely as you can. There's one more thing I wanted to share. Again, recent news that just came out last week is that, Amazon, as they continue to permeate, Nancy was mentioning, some of the things that they have planned potentially around sports and Prime coming up, but for e-commerce brands, it's very important that Amazon is now offering a buy with Prime option that can be embedded within your own e-commerce site. It's going to allow you to have the badge, and it's going to allow Prime members to actually buy products from you using their Prime credentials, and they get the same benefits as if they were buying from Amazon. It's an invite-only program right now. They're going to be rolling this out over the coming months. There will likely be a fee attached. We don't know what that is yet, but do know this is another option for you to make sure you're allowing your customers to buy from you wherever they want to and extending the benefits that you see. So I just want to make sure everyone was aware of that, as it was late breaking news last week. And back to our report. So if you're interested in downloading our survey, we'd love you to. Again, it's called Brands Amazon and the Changing Landscape of E-Marketplaces. You can find it on our website, feedvisor.com. Under our resources section, you'll see that there's an area for playbooks. But I think, Nancy, you might also be sharing this, so we'll let you cover that in a minute. And lastly, I just wanted to say, as an eMarketer special, we are happy to speak with any of you that are interested in how we might be able to help you get Prime Day ready, holiday ready, and just to overall optimize your business across these marketplaces and deep within Amazon. We're offering a 60-day free trial. For those of you that are interested, please reach out to us at feedvisor.com/connect, or you can email me. My information is here. It is danny.nadel@feedvisor.com. So Nancy, with that, I'm going to hand it to you.
Fantastic, Danny. Thank you so much. And I want to encourage our audience, please reach out to Danny. Please reach out to Feedvisor. This is so important. Do you know that Amazon will account for nearly 2 in every $5 spent online? So this is super important to your strategy, and take advantage of this. Danny, I heard 5 things that you said to focus on. Use Amazon in your strategy, of course, select 2+ marketplaces to experiment, stand out, use analysis to allocate your ad budget, and use social and mobile to complement. Those are really very important. And I love that advice. And we have a question, speaking of channels, and that question is, if you're using different channels, if you're using different ad types, how long should you experiment before measuring your return?
It's a great question. Because again, experimentation is at the heart of innovation, and you want to keep innovating wherever you are. We typically recommend 4 weeks minimum to run a test, and then allow for 2 weeks of attribution right after that test before you really conclude the effects. And this aligns with the Amazon data science team as well. We spent a lot of time talking to them about this. Of course, we're always curious. We're always looking to see how that test is performing in the middle and during, but I would underscore that try not to make any tweaks or changes, even if it's not going the way you thought it would, because whatever learning you get is valuable, and that learning will help apply to other things. But you want to make sure your structure, your methodology up front, what are you deeming test versus control? What are you looking at for as far as sample size to be statistically significant? You want to make sure you set that up properly, and you want to make sure there's no other potential effects that could be going on during the same time that could have had an impact on your test results. For example, competitor announces new promotion. So things to think about.
Thank you. And you talked a lot about holidays and, of course, tentpole event like Amazon Prime Day. And we had some recent eMarketers research come out that was really looking at how Prime Day has affected consumer behavior. And last year, I forget the exact number now, but a lot of consumers actually started their holiday shopping as early as June, they claimed last year, and Prime Day sparked that. So the question from our audience is, Danny, if you have a limited ad budget around the big holidays, where would you focus your attention and budget?
Yeah, no, and that is always the conundrum. And I actually think this year it's going to be worse than it has in the past, just given the pressures on margins coming from all areas of supply chain and competition. So look, I think the most important thing is to understand, again, past performance, what's worked for you, what are your targets for the year, and what do you need to put muscle behind to win? Start there. The second thing is pull back your spend in the areas where it's not been as effective, or historically you don't see the demand, consumer shopping demand happening for those products. And then the third thing is, it's very important on a big tentpole event that you're getting consumers top to bottom, because there's a lot of window shoppers coming. They don't know what they want. They just know they're shopping for a good deal. There's people out there that are very focused on what they want and are buying something for holiday that they know they're going to give. So you have very different mindsets coming in, and you want to make sure, therefore, you're visible throughout that funnel. So I think use the DSP, use sponsored display. Retargeting is very, very important, so that people that are viewing your product content, you're continually engaging with again. But the easiest thing to cut is prospecting during a limited budget moment, because that's not the one that's as directly correlated to return. But I would say reserve a percentage of your budget to prospecting, just so you can be taking advantage of the data Amazon and the marketplaces have, the first-party data supplemented by third-party data on who actually is buying and what are they looking to buy, what are their affinities. So I think those are a few of the ways that I think you should think about using advertising during a limited budget moment.
Okay, great. And we're going into our 8th annual Prime Day, if you could believe it or not. And it's been very successful, but last year there was impact from the supply chain, as you noted, and consumers are worried about that. So Danny, do you expect Prime Day sales to continue to grow compared to last year?
I'm expecting Modest growth. Yeah, I think there's a lot of macroeconomic factors that will be affecting Prime Day this year. And I think we're seeing it already. It started in mid-February. We started to see some declines happening across the board year-over-year comparables. So I'm expecting there to be modest growth. The other thing we're seeing here is there's been a change, right? You and I were just talking about this. It was a beautiful weekend. We were out and about, running around in our respective cities, shopping. There's retail, brick and mortar retail, that is now much more accessible than it was the past 2 years. So whereas we had this very focused audience in e-commerce over the past 2 years, we now have competition in retail environments. So I think that will also affect what we're going to see.
Okay, thank you. And if a brand is not selling on Amazon, should they advertise on Amazon? Are consumers really looking for advertising on the platform, or is Amazon just so massive that having a brand presence is advertising in itself? Is a question that we have.
And I want to make sure I'm understanding it. So I'm going to paraphrase.
Yeah, I'm going to I'll try and dissect it for you. So basically what they're saying is if you're already, if I understand this correctly, if you're already promoting your brand, if you're already selling on Amazon, should you also be complementing with advertising?
Okay. Thank you. That's very clear. And the answer is an emphatic yes. As I said before, selling's important, but just selling alone is not going to get you the visibility in a crowded marketplace like Amazon with fierce competition who are paying to get that top of search placement. So you really need to think of the two together. Advertising is crucial to drive the visibility. The other thing that's equally important, which we didn't talk a lot about today, but equally important, is repricing. You can drive your demand with advertising, make sure you're getting visible. But if you're not priced competitively with your set of competition that is appearing on that same search page as you, then you're not going to get that conversion. Your competitor will. So I think the two have to be looked at very much together. And that's very much what we do. We're looking at advertising and the different placements and costs. We're looking at price points in the moment to make sure that we're continually optimizing each and investing in the places where your payout's going to be the greatest. And it's incremental payout, not just payout. That's very important.
Thank you. And you talked a little bit about, you said reserve some ad budget for prospecting, which is very critical. And I think this question probably stemmed from that statement. The question is, what is the right balance of driving marketplaces versus your own brand site?
Oh, I think that is going to be a question that's very specific to each brand and the goals you have as a business. I think you have to step back and look at, what are my goals? Am I looking to grow new customer acquisition? Am I looking to grow value from my existing customer base? Am I looking to launch a new product and drive share? You really have to understand what it is you're focused on achieving, because the answer is going to be different based on that. If growth is your number one area of focus, it's going to be very difficult for you to spend what you need to spend to drive traffic to your own site. You need to be where consumers are, and they are spending their time in the marketplaces, which is why it is so crucial it be part of your plans today. Otherwise, you can exhaust your budgets just trying to drive demand, and it could be your existing customers you're driving and not new to brand prospects. So that's why it's a very bespoke answer, but I think you have to start with the strategic question first and then build your plan accordingly. So that's my answer.
Okay. Thank you. And as a follow-on, someone's asking, would you prioritize your online marketplaces to host your products or to advertise? Is there any kind of balance, any kind of advice you could give on that?
I'm a firm believer in the fact that you have to be selling and advertising together, and because it's this fine orchestration that has to happen in a world of a marketplace. Data's coming in and out, competition's there. There's algorithms preferencing who appears where on a search page. Selling, whether through Amazon or as a merchant, it will give you that visibility and data that you're just not going to have if you're just advertising. So I think to get the true power of what a marketplace provides, which is truly a lower funnel conversion event for consumers coming to actually buy something, you're much better served having the product there to pay it off from your advertising.
Okay. And we're getting lots of advice here to our audience. So thank you to our audience for all these questions coming in. They're fantastic. Another question is, if you have a limited budget, what's more important, focusing on those tentpole events or stretching out your budget for an always-on approach?
Funny, I had a client actually ask this of us a few weeks back.
Maybe they're here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my answer is truly, and that's what we shared, is I think having a more sustained presence throughout the year with slight heavy ups, you will be better served because you will be building relationships over time with consumers that are kind of in need, and your products will be there to serve them when they need you to. Tentpole events become very expensive events because everyone is investing significantly during those moments to stand out. And if you don't have the strongest promotions, or if you don't have the right amount of reviews versus others, your money's not going to be spent as well. So I think you can have a much better return having a more sustainable presence and growing your business through the foundational levers over time. And then again, having up strategically during the tentpoles and holiday.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, even from our perspective, working with clients and guiding their media spend across eMarketer's media channels, it's so important to build that trust and have that frequency with the audience. So I agree as well. We have one last question here, and I like this. This is putting you on the spot, Danny. If you were to pick one piece of advice from all the wonderful actions that you shared with our audience, what would that be? Take action on, I should say.
You're right. There was a lot there. So I think the one piece of advice is to make sure you are truly understanding your performance across your catalog in a marketplace. And this is the biggest challenge, which is to get that transparency of data and that true return on investment. So figuring out ways to take your advertising metrics and performance data coupled with your retail data, so you truly understand your ROI at a product level. So you really understand how high is. How am I doing? Where do I have upside to invest further or not? And if so, how do I invest further? What are the best places for me to invest? Is it promotions? Is it advertising dollars? So for me, it all starts with that single source of truth on performance and how you then build your strategies accordingly.
Fantastic. Danny, thank you so much for all this great content. Thank you to our audience for asking all these smart questions. We really appreciate it. Before we wrap up, let me take a moment and tell you what else is happening across eMarketer's media channels. You can register for more upcoming live Tech Talk and Meet the Analyst webinars at emarketer.com/webinars. This week, we have a lot of webinars every day. We're going to discuss CX, TV, advertising, and commerce media, so stay tuned. On the audio side, don't forget Behind the Numbers. That's our daily podcast. And finally, check out our newsletters. Keep an eye on your email. You want to get the link to today's presentation and the recording, the slides, and also the full survey report. This is really important. Share it around your organization. As Danny said, brands are seeing 7x ROI on Amazon. I think you want that. So again, keep an eye on your email. Thank you again all for your time. Thank you, Danny, the entire time at Feedvisor, the entire team at Feedvisor. We'll see you all on our next Tech Talk. Bye-bye.